It was a quiet evening, one of those nights where the world seems to slow down just enough for you to notice every small detail. I had been working late trying to finish a report, but my mind kept wandering to her, my wife, the woman I had loved for years, who had shared my life, my home, and my heart. I knew it had been weeks since we had been truly close. Weeks of side hugs, polite kisses, and dinners eaten in silence. I thought maybe tonight would be different. I asked her gently, trying not to sound frustrated. When will we be intimate again? I didn't want to pressure her, only to understand. I wanted to feel connected to her, to feel that closeness we once had. But the answer I received hit harder than any rejection I had ever felt. She looked at me with a casual, almost dismissive expression and said, "I already was yesterday." The words hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. My mind froze for a moment. I tried to process what she had just said, and the longer I stared at her, the more the reality sank in. She hadn't just been rejecting me. She had been intimate with someone else, while I had been here waiting, hoping, believing that our bond was unbreakable. I wanted to shout, to accuse, to demand the truth. But I didn't. I remembered the countless arguments I had avoided, the times I had swallowed my pride to keep peace, the nights I had lain awake alone, convincing myself that things would change. And now all those efforts seemed meaningless. My heart pounded, a mixture of betrayal, anger, and disbelief. Every shared memory, every promise we had made, now felt tainted. I couldn't reconcile the woman I thought I knew with the reality in front of me. The woman I had married, trusted, and loved had been lying behind my back. And the lie was not a small one. It wasn't a fleeting mistake. It was deliberate. I walked away, pacing the room, trying to regain some composure. I replayed the words in my head, analyzing every nuance, every inflection, every subtle hint I had missed. The silence between us was louder than any argument. I realized painfully that I couldn't continue living like this, pretending, hoping, and waiting for a love that had already shifted elsewhere. That night I didn't sleep. I didn't cry. I simply sat in the quiet darkness, thinking about trust, love, and the devastating power of betrayal. And I knew deep down that a decision needed to be made. A life where I was being deceived in the most intimate ways was no longer a life I could accept. The next morning, I watched her move around the kitchen as if nothing had happened. She brewed coffee, hummed softly, and chatted casually about the day ahead. Every word, every gesture, felt like salt on a wound I hadn't yet acknowledged. I couldn't let this slide. I had to confront her, not out of anger, but to understand the depth of the betrayal. "Claire," I said quietly, my voice calm but firm. She looked up, smiling, expecting the usual morning greeting. But the smile faded when she saw the seriousness in my eyes. "We need to talk," I continued. She nodded, though I could sense a flicker of apprehension. I held her gaze. "When I asked you about intimacy, I was hoping for honesty, closeness, something real between us," I said. "Instead, I found out you already had it yesterday, with someone else." Her eyes widened, panic flashing across her face. "James, she began, but I held up my hand. "Don't. I don't need excuses, I don't need half-truths. I need the truth." She swallowed hard, her voice trembling. "It wasn't what you think. It was a mistake. I didn't mean for it to happen. I love you. You know I do." I felt my chest tighten. Love? Was that really love? Or just a word she used to soften the blow of her choices? Love doesn't hide behind deception, Claire. It doesn't choose someone else while claiming me as its own. And I can't accept that anymore, I said, my voice steady. For a long moment there was only silence. The apartment seemed to hold its breath, the ticking clock louder than her heartbeat. She sat down, tears welling in her eyes, and I felt the weight of years of unspoken disappointments pressing down on both of us. "I don't know what to do," she whispered, voice barely audible. I took a deep breath. "I do. I need to protect myself. I need to protect the love I have left for what's right. And that means I can't continue in this marriage while my trust is broken this way." Her shoulders slumped. She wanted to argue, to plead, to convince me otherwise. But the truth had already settled. I wasn't reacting out of anger. I was responding to clarity. Years of small betrayals had led to this moment. And in that moment I understood that some lines once crossed cannot be uncrossed. The following days were quiet, but not peaceful. Claire stayed in the apartment, but the space between us felt insurmountable. Every glance, every word, every silence reminded me of the breach that had occurred. A breach that couldn't be ignored or fixed with empty apologies. I had always believed that love could weather storms, but this was different. I spent hours reflecting on our marriage. The late nights I had tried to be attentive, the countless attempts to rekindle intimacy, the moments I had compromised to keep harmony, they all felt wasted. Trust, once fractured, doesn't heal overnight. And Claire's choice to betray it in the most intimate way made it impossible to ignore. When she tried to reach out, to explain, to plead, I listened but stayed resolute. "James, it meant nothing," she said, voice shaking. I was confused. "It's not what it seems." But I had already seen the pattern. The distance, the deflection, the hidden desires. It wasn't a single act. It was a series of acts that revealed who she truly was now. Love is not only about words, it's about actions. And actions over time paint the clearest picture. I called for a calm conversation, sitting her down in the living room. "Claire," I said, "I need to live in a life where my heart is valued, where my trust isn't violated. This marriage as it stands cannot offer that." She cried, begged, and tried to convince me that it could be repaired. But I remained firm. Love without respect, without honesty, without presence cannot survive. The photo in my mind, the words she texted, the reality of her choices, they all made one thing clear. Staying would only prolong my pain and risk the part of me that still believed in genuine connection. Within the week, we started separating our lives. She stayed with her sister while we handled practical matters, and I focused on my own emotional healing. It was not easy, and the nights were long and heavy with memories of what I had thought we shared. But slowly, the weight of betrayal lifted as clarity took its place. I deleted reminders of her betrayal, but I didn't erase the lesson. Trust is fragile, love is powerful, and sometimes the bravest act of love is letting go. By stepping away, I protected my heart and set the stage for a future where love could exist without doubt, without secrecy, and without betrayal. In the end, the silence that followed wasn't empty, it was freeing. And for the first time in months, I felt a strange sense of peace, knowing that I had chosen myself, my dignity, and a life where my heart mattered above all else.